can't escape all your uncertainty. Baby, I can show you how. Let my love
Good afternoon, Barry, and welcome to the Jam Sesh. I'm Mason, and this is Jess. And today we have a very special guest for you this afternoon. Welcome, Mr. O. How are you? How are you today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. All right. So, would you mind pronouncing your last name for us?
Ready? It is Polish.
Okay. Oh. Your full last name.
Oh, my full last name. Olszewski.
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 All right, cool. Okay, Mr. Olszewski. I've heard you're a fan of the game Dungeons and Dragons.
I'd say fan is putting it mildly. Enthusiast, diehard fan, just raw, bubbling passion. Yeah, that'd be accurate.
All right, so I'm assuming from that you play.
You asking if I'm a player?
Yes.
I am a player.
Okay, so tell us about your character.
Oh, I have. Well, which character would you like? I've participated in several campaigns with several other high-level dungeon masters. Which character would you like to know about?
Who's your favorite?
My favorite. I once roleplayed as a Deva Avenger, and it was very interesting. My character was something of a fallen angel, if you will, come down to Earth to spread the good news about what our world could become. And we fought a bunch of dragons. And at one point, we had a tiny elf who we kept in a pocket of one of our larger characters. He was a Goliath, so he was classified as a large-sized creature. He had a big trench coat, and he kept this tiny little elf in his pocket. And in the tiny pocket was a hole of unimaginable. It actually led to another dimension. We found out later that was the twist.
Oh,
but there was a pocket in the pocket, like a nested universe, and he worked in the little pocket workshop. It was wonderful, magical.
Oh, wow. So how did you get into Dungeons and Dragons?
I was very lonely and tormented as a child, and no, I wasn't invited to the cool parties, and just yeah, you look like that kind of guy.
Thank you.
No, I had a pretty good childhood, and my dad was actually a very avid Dungeons and Dragons player. And one day he showed me all of his the books and the little minifigures and everything like that, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And he was like, yeah, it is. I was like, can I play? And he was like, no, you're not old enough. And then 10 years later, I was able to play.
Sweet.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good time.
Yeah. There used to be a Dungeons and Dragons club here at PHS.
Just a brief tease. There may be one coming back in the near future. So
wow.
Keep those ears tuned, Perry.
All right. We hear you're close with your mother.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate?
Yes, I do. that statement sounds like it needs elaboration. My mom is also a teacher at Perry Local School. She teaches over at Edison. Wonderful lady, very nice. Some of you may have had her. But she kind of is the driving force about why I wanted to be a teacher. I saw what she did for a living, and I really kind of wanted to have that impact on the future, being able to work with kids, kind of being able to, catch them before they fall, if you will, and kind of put them on the right path, and get to kind of have an impact on my world, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's cool.
It was pretty cool. I'm pleased with that answer. I have a question.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Good. All right. Do you have another question? No? No other question?
All right. Well, okay. Since you talked about being a teacher, we've heard that you've changed your major 6 times.
On paper 6 times, but I went through many a early midlife crisis in my early 20s, frequently changing my major. I started out as a history major, and then I segued into a math major, which I eventually became. But then I had a brief freak out and became a computer science major. Then I was a theater major for a brief spell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? I couldn't picture it. And then I wanted to do economics and finance. then back to math, and then English. And then finally my mom said I had to pick one, and I just picked math.
So did you always want to be a teacher? Because these just sound like you're just bouncing everywhere.
Yeah, I was always very motivated to participate in school, and I was very academically driven. So I could never see myself confined to one specific subject. So as soon as I would dive into one, I immediately started thinking, like, am I missing out? What am I missing out at the drama department? What am I missing out when they're talking about finance? I'd like to know about all those things. But, you know, I mean, I did eventually pick math because it is my one true passion. But as to whether or not I wanted to become a teacher my whole life, I definitely knew, probably from middle school onward, that I wanted to be involved in educating people in some capacity. As to what level, though, I wasn't sure.
So would you say you're a seeker of knowledge?
I would say I'm a seeker of knowledge. From my time on the academic challenge team all the way through college, and eventually culminating right here at Perry High School, I think that I am now a font of knowledge, if you will, pontificating my universal truth of mathematics for all those willing to hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you like to tell us about your time on the academic challenge team?
I would love to. I was the only freshman my freshman year. I was the only freshman who made it. I was very proud of that. And it kind of, that became a big part of my identity. I really enjoyed my time there. We traveled all around. We went to Columbus to participate in tournaments. We got to be on Channel 5 News several times for their academic tournament. You can actually see me on there a couple of times. Brain Games was another good one. Not the really cool Netflix show, the one that's run out of COSI. And we had all sorts of fun, crazy, wacky times, all sorts of shenanigans and hijinks. One time, before taping a show at COSI, there's a, I'm not sure how many of you have been to COSI, there's a soup can ride that is outside, and it spins really fast, and it demonstrates centripetal and centrifugal force, and it pulls you out to the side, and they drop the floor out. So it spins really, really fast, like more than twice a minute, probably faster than that. But it spins really fast, and we rode it 17 times before we taped.
Was that a good idea?
It was disorienting, but we are glad that we did it. At least we think we are. I think one of us passed out. But
Did you mess up during
no,
that time?
didn't mess
No?
up. We actually, I think we won that round.
Oh,
So
wow.
We were pretty proud of that.
All right, I want to hear the story about you getting kicked out of band camp.
Out of band, okay. Well, I only got kicked out of band camp once. It was a tradition for the senior guys to pull a good-spirited ribbing at the band director. We had to do something to mess with him.
Yes.
And other senior guys and groups before us had done various pranks of a whole variety. Well, we decided to challenge ourselves and try to go about doing it without breaking any of the rules. So the rules clearly stated that no one was allowed outside of their cabin area before 4:30. Because at 4:30, a lot of the cross-country runners would go out and they would run because they still had to practice. So we got the idea that, well, technically, if we are outside after 4:30, we won't be in trouble. So we got a tent, and we brought the tent with us to band camp very secretively, because you can smuggle a tent. And it was a very large tent. It had to be able to fit 15 men. We were men. And we snuck out at 4:30 and planted the tent on the middle of the practice field, and all crawled in our little footy pajamas that we had purchased. And we all got all nice and snuggly and went to sleep. And our director was not too taken with our little activity, our little stunt, and we were all pretty comatose when he started kicking the tent down with us inside of it. And we were told to pack our things and leave.
All of you?
But all of us. But and the story has a happy ending. After a pretty thorough scolding, we were allowed to rejoin the band. So we like to joke that we were kicked out of band for 7.5 minutes, and were readmitted immediately. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I would do it again.
So did you go to band camp for the saxophone?
I did. I went for the tenor saxophone.
Alright.
Not just a regular saxophone, a tenor saxophone. There's a big difference.
Really? Would you mind describing that difference?
Well, the big difference primarily comes from the size, in that one is big and the other is not. The tenor can reach a lower register and has a nice, deep, rich sound, whereas the alto is kind of like a shrill, screeching bird.
So I'm saying you are not a fan of the alto saxophone.
I appreciate the altos and I respect what they do for us, but I'm a tenor man through and through.
I feel ya. Alright, well, it seems like that's all we have time for today, Mr. O. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. We had a great time.
Did you?